In the 17th and 18th centuries, the transatlantic slave trade became one of the most devastating forced migrations in human history. European ships plied the waters between the shores of West Africa and the plantations of the Americas, carrying millions of men, women, and children from their homelands under brutal conditions. This crossing, the infamous Middle Passage, would claim countless lives through disease, starvation, abuse, and despair. Captured through warfare, deception, or kidnapping, Africans were forced onto crowded ships along the West African coast, from areas now known as Senegal, Ghana, and Nigeria. Crammed below decks with barely room to breathe, many succumbed to illness before the journey even began. The Middle Passage was never just a voyage. It was a crucible of suffering, a journey that stripped individuals of identity, family, and freedom. Those who survived this brutal crossing were sold into slavery in the Caribbean, North America, and South America, fueling a global economy built on human suffering. In August 1781, a British slave ship named the Zong prepared to depart from Accra on the Gold Coast of West Africa. Originally a Dutch vessel captured and sold to British merchants, the Zong was loaded with hundreds of enslaved Africans, far more than the ship was built to carry. Historians estimate the vessel embarked with roughly 440 men, women, and children taken from West African shores. The ship was overcrowded, unsanitary, and deadly. A floating prison where disease and despair spread quickly. Despite the suffering below deck, the captives were still treated as commercial cargo, property to be bought, sold, insured, and accounted for in financial ledgers. As the Zong made its way across the Atlantic toward the plantations of Jamaica, disaster struck. The ship ran low on drinking water, and many aboard fell ill. The crew, desperate to save themselves and protect their investment, made a decision that would become one of the most shocking episodes in the history of slavery. History. On November 29, 1781, the captain and crew began throwing enslaved Africans overboard into the sea. This was not an act of necessity but of profit. Under British maritime insurance law, the loss of cargo jettisoned to save a ship could be claimed as an insurance payout. Over several days, scores of men, women, and children were cast into the unforgiving Atlantic. Some sources estimate over 130 individuals were murdered in this calculated act of cruelty. Zin Education Project. This harrowing event became known as the Zong Massacre, a stark reminder of how deeply the logic of commerce had corrupted humanity. When the Zong finally reached Jamaica, the ship's owners filed an insurance claim for the loss of their cargo. They demanded compensation for each enslaved person who had been thrown overboard. History. The case was taken to a British court in 1783, not as a murder trial but as an insurance dispute. In a chilling reflection of the era's values, the court initially ruled in favor of the ship's owners, treating human beings as equivalent to horses or goods. History. Although this decision was later overturned on a technicality, the legal battle exposed the moral bankruptcy of a system that commodified human life. It ignited outrage among abolitionists and became a symbol of the horrors of the slave trade. Figures like Olaudah Equiano, a West African formerly enslaved man who purchased his freedom, and philanthropists such as Granville Sharp used the Zong case to fuel the growing movement to end the transatlantic slave trade. The memory of the Zong massacre resonates centuries later as part of a larger history of resilience and resistance. The story has inspired art, literature, and theater. From J.M.W. Turner's haunting painting Slave Ship to modern plays that revisit the voices lost at sea. The massacre stands as a testament to the depths of human cruelty and the enduring struggle for justice and recognition. Today, historians, artists, and activists continue to uncover and share these stories, ensuring that the victims of the Middle Passage are remembered not as statistics, but as people with names, hopes, families, and dreams. The transatlantic slave trade and the Zong massacre are not distant abstract history. They are chapters in the shared story of humanity. They remind us of the fragility of freedom, the perils of dehumanization, and the importance of confronting history honestly and with compassion. May the voices of the lost guide us toward a future shaped by empathy, dignity, and justice. The transatlantic slave trade and the Zong massacre are not distant abstract history. They are chapters in the shared story of humanity. They remind us of the fragility of freedom, the perils of dehumanization, and the importance of confronting history honestly and with compassion. May the voices of the lost guide us toward a future shaped by empathy, dignity, and justice.